La propera convidada és una dona que ha estudiat la carrera d'Economia, però que ha dedicat gran part de la seva carrera a la promoció de la ciència, de les ciències bàsiques. I ella crec que la ciència pot convertir-se en un model de negoci. És la cofundadora d'una empresa internacional molt important que es diu Starlab i també la cofundadora, la CEO right now de Neuroelectrics. Benvinguda, Ana Maiques.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the invitation, Patricia. It's an honor to be here. I am an entrepreneur, a very proud entrepreneur in Barcelona. And I'm often said that my team and I, we are entrepreneurs for the brain age. And I'm going to talk a bit about entrepreneurship and a lot about the brain as well. So sometimes people ask me, what is it to be an entrepreneur? And I usually said it requires not to be a VIP, but to be a VEP. You have to have vision, so you have to have a dream, you have to execute it very well, and then you have to have passion. So you have to believe in what you do. So this story started in Barcelona 15 years ago. So I am married to Julio, which is a brilliant physicist and mathematician, and we together founded Starlab. So we had the vision that there were a lot of problems in society, and we are in passion with science. So we did research, and we asked, can we make a company that can go all the way from research to the market to solve problems? And the conclusion, it has taken us 15 years. So I think it's very difficult to go from research to the market, but I can say now that we are very happy. We started in the Observatory Fabra. It's one of the most historic places in Barcelona. And I often say that in the US they start in garage, so we start in historic buildings, as we are today here. So that's an advantage of being here. So we started doing this research in neuroscience, so we wanted to really understand what's going on in the brain and in space. So to make the story short, we have learned a lot about the brain. So now that you're hopefully listening to me, the ones in the internet, I cannot see your brains, but your brain is sending electrical currents. So we have developed a technology that it's able to monitor and stimulate your brain. So I'm going to put it on so that we can talk a bit more about the features. So this is a wireless brain monitoring and brain stimulation device. So I can put it on right now. It's connected to the cloud, and it does two things. So it can monitor my brain signals in real time, for example, for the diagnostic of epilepsy, sleep disorders, maybe in the future neurodegenerative diseases as an early biomarker. But it can do another thing, which I think is really beautiful. It can inject currents into my brain. So by injecting small currents into the brain, I cannot even feel them. I can either excite or inhibit neuron activity, which means I can help patients recover from a stroke by exciting the motor area of the brain. I can help patients with depression. And in the future, our dream is, can we send a kid home, for example, with epilepsy, and be able to monitor a seizure and then prevent it from happening? So this is all technology made in Barcelona. So I am very proud of the scientists we have, and there are examples here in the room of the science we do in Barcelona, and I would say in Catalonia. I think that what we are missing is a bit that we can, and that business sense, that this can have a bigger of an impact. We need the transition from science to the business. So we created Neuroelectrics as a spin-off company of Starlab to really give that commercial push. So now Neuroelectrics is selling these devices. This is a medical device by the European Union. And we already sold in more than 35 countries. We have an office in Boston. And this is being used in some of the best hospitals and research centers in the world. So I am happy because I am starting to see that the vision we had 15 years ago in the Observatory Fabra, that we could do science, and this vision and take it to the market, it's beginning to happen. I will have to say that some of the lessons learned is that science is beautiful, but things take a lot of time. So to make breakthrough, to make technology, it takes a lot of time. But I think that if you really have a dream and you're perseverant and you go for it, at the end you can really go to bed and think, well, I think I made something that didn't exist before that is actually helping people. So I hope that in the discussion we can go a little bit more in depth on what it's to be from Barcelona working in this, for us, brain age.
Thank you, Ana. So would you like to come
Yes.
here? So we are missing a cup of tea in
It's
here.
okay.
It would be very nice. So put it in the back. So I would like, when you say, it is fascinating what you say it sounds like it was very easy. When you tell the story, it was 15 years ago we started, and now we are here, but all the way, how were those beginners? I mean, the beginnings, the money, the investment that you have to make, how many people started this project?
So, the beginning, on one side was very hard, but on the other it's very romantic. Because, when you start something, nobody, it's like jumping, from a mountain. You don't know, how you're going to fall. So there's no safety tent. But everything is to be done. So, it's blue sky. You can do anything. So I remember in the observatory we used to have, of course, no money, but we used to have these butanos, these heaters. And I remember working with half of my body totally warm and half totally frozen, And I remember having to rent a projector because we didn't have the money to buy a projector. So the beginning was hard, but on the other hand, you find the strength because you really have a dream.
But you had a very clear idea of what you want.
Yes.
And you also had a great training. Your husband was already a PhD in physics and
in mathematics.
In mathematics. So your biggest asset was your education.
Yes, but our education, but I think that was the strength of the team. We started like 5 people, but Julio is a scientist and I am
wait a minute, that we are having some problems with the audio, so we want people who are connected to hear you well, because it's very interesting. Gracias, Carlos.
Sorry, yes.
Ya está.
So we are educated, but we were not trained to be entrepreneurs. We were not trained to run a company. So I was an economist, but I had never, had a company before. So I think that it's a different learning skills, and you learn a lot by doing and by intuition and follow, your intuition. But I remember those times like the whole team was really passionate about what we wanted to do.
You think is something missing in the education in the universities right now? Because it happens same to me when musicians or medical doctors, they teach you how to do your work, but nobody teach you how to sell your product.
Yeah.
How to promote.
Yeah, I think that entrepreneurship should be done from a very, very early stage. Like in school at 6 years, we should tell kids, I give you $1 or €1, you have to come back with 3. What are you going to do to get 3? Make collaritos, sell whatever, This kind of business sense of managing a team, cause. There are a lot of things that we don't have in the culture so much or in the education system.
Very interesting. So now going back to you starting the observatory, what was the initial idea? Because you told me when we met that Julio had that idea. This is the future is in the space or in the brain. So he wanted to go in that direction. How was that?
So he had this vision, and I think he was completely right, that this century is going to be about space, and I think it's taking longer in space and neuroscience. And the thing is, how can you survive as a company until you develop the technologies that are needed on those fields? And I think we were lucky in Europe to have the European Commission support, which is amazing in terms of, getting grants to do R&D. We had some companies that back us in terms of giving us projects. And then we had the European Space Agency, which is the NASA of Europe. And we have been very competitive there as well in demonstrating we are very good at doing work for them.
When you started, you were 2, and now how many?
We are 40-something, I think.
And 40-something, how many of those 40-something are PhD full-time researchers?
Many of them, most of them.
So how was that you came here? Because normally our universities or educational institutions are the ones who host these high-end researchers. How did you manage to do that?
Well, I think that the beauty of Starlab and Neuroelectrics is, but specifically of Starlab, is a very scientific company, but it has a business culture. And these are two cultures which are very difficult to manage together because they come from very different ends. But I think that having Julio and myself in the company created the culture very naturally. So what I can bring to the table is that I'm not a scientist, but I am very aware of what's going on in the real world. So I bridge between the needs in hospitals and the science. So I think scientists have become more business people or customer-oriented in our company, and us, the commercial people, have become more scientists in the sense that we understand that things take time, and you cannot sell something is going to. So I think that the beauty, and I always recommend entrepreneurs to mix teams. So if you put together a musician, a doctor, and an architect, something pretty is going to come out because you're coming from such a different ends. And that's what happened a bit in our company.
This is beautiful because we are in the edge of interdisciplinarity. But when now talking about your cat or hat, or I don't know how you call it, I mean, it's interesting to see all the applications that you are finding. I mean, not only in medicine or for illnesses, but also in other areas like marketing. Yeah. How is that? How did you arrive to?
Well, I think that it's an explosion of neuroscience and neurotechnology. I can see people using this for medical reasons, which is the main motivation after our company. But I can see people doing cognitive enhancement. Can we increase our memory? Mm-hmm. Can we prevent cognitive decline? Can we do better neuromarketing, neurofinancing? A lot of the things, I think they are not very well sustained in terms of science. And there is not scientific evidence, but it's more of a marketing thing. But there is really a lot of, we know very little about the brain, so it is normal that it's exploding because people are trying to understand what's going on the brain. And to be honest, we don't know. So there is a lot of research still to be done.
This is also exciting because it's like everything needs to be done.
Yes.
In a way, it's an open ground to discover. I was thinking right now, it came to my mind, in a Mozart opera. He talks about the mesmerica, it was something in the 18th century that were trying to put currents into the brain also. So this thing of putting electricity into the brain had been coming since 18th century, probably 19, in different ways.
No, even before.
Even before.
In the Romans, there is a very nice drawing in the Roman times where this emperor had a tremendous pain. And they used to bring a ray fish from the sea and place it over his head. And that is documented in books. Oh. So they were already using electricity in the Roman times for pain management.
Very interesting.
With a fish, but...
And now, probably at the end of the 20th century, we will have an idea of exactly what it does and in which areas of brain, because now as I was looking at your company's site, we know that certain areas of the brain are stimulated, but we don't know what those areas do or how they affect certain behaviors or illnesses.
Yeah, I mean, we know, for example, that if you suffer from a stroke, we have to stimulate the motor cortex because you have a motor problem, right? But we don't know still in many pathologies what areas of the brain is better to stimulate. So for some pathologies, epilepsy is a very focal kind of neurological disease. Some of them are very well studied, but Alzheimer.
The entire brain.
Dementia. Parkinson's is in a deep area of the brain, but maybe through the outside we can get to deep structures if we are a bit creative on how we deliver electricity. Can you find pathways from outside to make you go deep in the brain? We don't know.
Wow. And it's a challenge, especially because it's all these computational connections that are also changing every minute.
Yeah, that's the beauty. I think that electroencephalography or the technologies we are working on, they are changing now because of the computational capacities we didn't have 30 years ago, and also because of the Bluetooth, the cloud. All this is allowing massive recording of medical data as well.
Now that you say Bluetooth, I saw on one of the videos in your site this experiment they did for the communication of the
brain to brain.
Brain to brain. Talk about that. That is so cool.
Yeah, Julia is talking on Saturday on a TED Talk, talking about brain to brain. So we managed to publish for the first time two brains communicating to each other without any sensory information.
And one was in one country and the other France and
India.
And India, my goodness.
So the person in India had one of these devices that was collecting his brain signals, right? So he was thinking in a particular way. For example, if I think I move my feet, the brain makes a signal like this. And that means 1. We code it as a 1.
Binary thing.
Yes. The person in France was receiving stimulation on the cerebral cortex. So depending on the stimulation, he was seeing lights or not, phosphens, so kind of twinkling lights, because your cerebral cortex is stimulated. So we coded this, and the guy in India was able to transmit by 1 and zeros, hola and ciao, in a particular coding mode, to the person in France. So he was understanding that he was saying hola and ciao only with these brain signals.
This is really amazing, because it's also the dream of, since probably mankind, this brain-to-brain communication or understanding, or this is amazing. Sounds like science fiction.
Yeah, but I haven't. I mean, people, when they think brain-to-brain, they think, I want to read what you're thinking, right? But what I describe is not the same, right? I control a signal, and then you're receiving a message.
The exact message that I want you to receive.
So it's not reading minds, which I think is what you would like to do.
Yes. Well, this is so exciting. And last questions, how to, so from somebody here, it says, how to innovate in this changing and challenging context of science and technology? Wow.
Well, I think the execution is very important. And oftentimes people, they think that ideas are good enough, and then you have to deliver. So at the end, it's up to developing great products, great services, great technology. Whatever you do has to be really good. And then you have to be able to push it and sell it to wherever the community is, convince the key opinion leaders. So I think there is always room for innovation, but you just have to execute and make sure that you go around and explain why what you have developed is so good.
So innovation has to be hand-to-hand with communication. That's what you're saying. That would be kind of marketing.
But without a good product, there is no communication, right? Because the scientific community, it's very smart, right?
Yes.
But so you cannot fool people. So I think that first you have to scientifically and technically do good products, good technology, even if you do an app, do it well. Mm-hmm. And then you're ready to go out there and sell and promote and travel the world.
Thank you very much, Ana. It has been very, very nice to talk to you. Thank
My
you,
pleasure.
thank you, and we will see each other at the end. és la cofundadora d'una empresa internacional molt important que es diu Starlab i també la cofundadora, la CEO right now de Neuroelectrics. Benvinguda, Ana Maiques.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the invitation. Patricia, requires not to be a VIP, but to be a VEP. You have to have vision, so you have to have a dream. You have to execute it very well. And then you have to have passion. So you have to believe in what you do. So this story started in Barcelona 15 years ago. So I am married to Julio, which is a brilliant physicist and mathematician. And we together founded
La propera convidada.
It's an honor to be here. I am an entrepreneur, a very proud entrepreneur in Barcelona. And I'm often said that my team and I, we are entrepreneurs for the brain age. And I'm going to talk a bit about entrepreneurship and a lot about the brain as well. So sometimes people ask me, what is it to be an entrepreneur? And I usually said it requires...
És una dona que ha estudiat la carrera d'economia, però que ha dedicat gran part de la seva carrera a la promoció de la ciència, de les ciències bàsiques. I ella crec que la ciència pot convertir-se en un model de negoci.